Our next presenter has a pretty good clue of what kids are into nowadays. And for many kids, that includes time with family, especially our lolos and lolas. Filipinos inherently value our elders, and to help us recognize one of our pioneers presenting the Apo Award, star of Blue's Clues, and you, Josh Dela Cruz.
Before we dive into the long list of accolades of our next honoree, it's most appropriate that we start by recognizing his role as a co-founder of SIPA in 1972. His leadership was instrumental in building our Phil-Am community today. In the late 1960s through the 1970s, Japanese, Chinese, and Filipino-Americans united to form a stronger Asian American movement. Young Asian Americans had mobilized in their communities in order to support one another and fight against unequal treatment of Asian Americans. During that time, SIPA founder Uncle Roy Morales approached his friend and ally, Alan, to help him build a strong foundation for SIPA. Alan was an early advocate for economic development programs and helped to lay much of the structural organization at SIPA. To this day, he has advised the current SIPA Board of Directors on organizational practices, leadership, and more. Not only has this man left an impact on our community, but he is also an internationally recognized business facilitator and management coach with more than 50 years of experience consulting public and private organizations. He has advised the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, American Honda Motor Company, and the National Board of YMCAs. But his work doesn't stop there. Before founding his consulting firm, he held leadership positions in 5 organizations across the public, nonprofit, and international business sectors. And on top of all this, he still actively participates in the Asian American community today. He currently sits on the boards for Japanese American Community Services, Little Tokyo Community Council, City of Los Angeles Arts District Little Tokyo Neighborhood Council, Rotary Club of Little Tokyo, and Asian and Pacific Islander Americans in Historic Preservation, in addition to advising the current SIPA Board of Directors in historic Filipino Town. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming this year's recipient of the Apo Award for Pioneering Spirit, Trusted Advisor, Innovative Leader, and Community Advocate, Alan Kumamoto.
Thank you, Josh, for this wonderful award and for the kind introduction. In the early 1970s, a community leader and social worker by the name of Roy Morales approached me, and he wanted to conduct a weekend retreat for Filipino-American youth to talk about problems and issues in the community. Since I had access to Camp Oak Grove in the San Gabriel Mountains, a weekend was arranged, and about 100 youth and their volunteer adults arrived, and we spent the weekend together. During the time together, Roy brought out a SIPA ball, and the traditional sport of the Philippines was played in the front yard. The group returned back to Los Angeles, and once they returned, they met at the Filipino Christian Church, which was the church that Roy's father had established, and it just coincidentally happened to be across the street from Our Lady of Loreto Grammar School, where I had attended school for 8 years. So I was familiar with that particular corner and that particular church across the street. SIPA was the name chosen, searched to involve Filipino Americans, and the group met initially at the church in the basement. But after 50 years, I've seen SIPA enrich and empower generations of Filipino Americans in the historic Filipino town area, as well as conducting outreach to the greater Filipino American community in Los Angeles County and beyond. I've seen SIPA grow from primarily youth services to include human and health services, as well as community economic development, small business counseling, arts and culture programming, and much more, and many things, including a lot of community events. Finally, I want to say that SIPA's headquarters building has been not only the space, but also the gathering place for many people of all backgrounds to build community. Thank you to everyone who helped to put this together, and I'd like to especially thank the SIPA board, staff, and volunteers for this gala. Thank you.